Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and I have 3 stories to share with you in this very latest Moon Lambo hot jam. Starting with this one from Cointelegraph, SEC opens Franklin Templeton XRP Solana ETF proposals to comments. Now, this, although technically progress, it's also effectively yet another delay, causing some frustration in the XRP community. I'll explain as we get into it. Then there's also this. There's so much happening. This is fantastic. Look at this headline from the Crypto Basic. First XRP ETF launch in Canada confirmed. Trading date announced. That's right. The first ever XRP ETF in North America going live today. Then we have this. This is from CNBC. Senate passes Genius Stablecoin bill, giving crypto industry first major legislative win. I'll share with you what Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse had to say upon this news breaking. Highly consequential for Ripple, ultimately, given that, of course, they launched their own stablecoin RLUSD in December of 2024. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so this is not the first delay that we've seen for an XRP ETF. Here's a headline from Coinpedia. On April 29th of this year, SEC delays Franklin Templeton XRP ETF decision. Sherry Haywood, an assistant secretary for the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, announced on Tuesday that the agency has delayed the decision-making for the proposed rule change to list and trade shares of the Franklin XRP fund under BZX rule. According to the filing dated April 29th, the commission pushed the next decision-making date to June 17th, 2025. Okay, so 17th, of course, that was yesterday. Tuesday, and something did happen. Not what we would have necessarily completely hoped for, but okay. At least it's technically progress. Well, it depends on how you want to look at it. The headline here, though, SEC opens Franklin Templeton XRP Solana ETF proposals to comments. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has opened public comments for 2 proposed cryptocurrency exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, from asset manager Franklin Templeton to be listed on the Chicago Board Options BZX exchange. In separate filings on Tuesday, the SEC said it was instituting proceedings that could allow the U.S. exchange to list and trade shares of the Franklin XRP ETF and Franklin Solana ETF. The CBOE BZX exchange filed for a proposed rule change with the SEC in March to allow for approval of the investment vehicle, which a regulator delayed in April, pushing its deadline for a decision until Tuesday. Institution of proceedings does not indicate that the commission has reached any conclusions with respect to any of the issues involved, said the SEC in both filings. Rather, the commission seeks and encourages interested persons to provide comments on the proposed rule change. Now, there's been no shortage of commentary, and for good reason. Like, I think that maybe we're used to just having, the government beat down on us as XRP, because I mean, look what's happened. Look what we've had to deal with over the last half a decade. No community in crypto has been through more garbage than the XRP community. So maybe we've just gotten a bit used to that, but I do understand the frustration, certainly. I'm personally still not of the mindset that we should be, having that type of expectation. I think it's very obvious that the war on crypto is effectively over because Trump did win the presidency. It's just done. Think about all the lawsuits that have gone away. Yeah, we're still wrapping up, the goings on having to do with the SEC and Ripple situation. More on that in a separate video. Actually, there have been a lot of developments in recent days, and I want to break down some of that separately. But here's a post, for example, from Francis Bovine Swift of the XRP community. And by the way, he is the guy who created the XRP Rich List, a fantastic website. I use it fairly frequently. And so he responded to this news, and he said, "Why is the SEC dragging their feet on this? Comment should have been open at the first delay. Same old SEC when it comes to XRP." And so, look, I understand why some people would be feeling a bit frustrated about this. And I don't have an answer to that as far as why wasn't the comment period opened after the first delay. You would think that it would have. If there's a logical reason where it made sense for not to, I'd love to hear it. I haven't heard that argument made. Seems like they just didn't. Now, that said, it doesn't mean that the SEC is anti-XRP. Again, like I said, the war on crypto is effectively over at this point. And it's not the case that XRP is being treated differently than other coins, actually. This is the same thing that's happening with Solana, and there have been delays with other coins. So I actually don't think that we need to be concerned specifically as as the XRP community here. I don't know why it's taking them as long as they are, but I don't think that there's any reason to believe that there's going to be some sort of hostile attack or approach to XRP specifically. I just don't think that's going to happen personally. And if that does happen, I'll be surprised, and we'll have a conversation about it as a community. I'm an optimist here, right? And some of this, frankly, is normal, like the fact that it can take a while, not necessarily unusual. If this were happening under the previous administration, yeah, I'd be more than a little bit skeptical. But under this administration, frankly, no, because they've just been so blatantly pro-crypto. Anyway, Cointelegraph piece continues. Upon publication in the Federal Register, the SEC notices will effectively push the deadline to decide on whether to approve or disapprove of the Franklin Templeton ETFs by 35 days to July. Though the U.S. regulator has already greenlit spot investment vehicles for Bitcoin and Ether, many companies are vying to be the first to be approved for tokens like XRP, Solana, and others. And so there you go. As a result of this, it's effectively another delay. It's a comment period, but it's effectively a delay. We're still waiting for this thing to just happen. But I do think we'll get there. I really do think that that's what's most probable. I think you're going to have multiple XRP ETFs get approved, but now we got to wait till later in July to hopefully get some good news. And then there's this headline: first XRP ETF launch in Canada confirmed, trading date announced. The first spot XRP ETF in North America would debut tomorrow as Purpose Investments receives final approval to launch the XRP-focused product. And pause note, when they say tomorrow, they wrote that on Tuesday, so it is today, Wednesday the 18th, that this thing's launching. It may be live by the time you're watching this video. Anyway, the Canadian-based asset manager is set to launch the Purpose XRP ETF on June 8th, putting pressure on other regions, including the United States. So, folks, Canada, which is America's hat, they definitely had their act together a bit more than what we've had in the United States here. But we're still going to get this thing here. Anyway, according to a press release, the fund would trade on a top stock exchange in the country, offering users alternative exposure to XRP, the native token of the Layer 1 network XRP ledger. And folks, that's why this matters. Because anybody that buys the XRP ETF, like, it is backed by actual XRP. That's why this matters. And so over a span of years and decades, the more these things, they're open as investment vehicles, the more money is going to flow in, making XRP that much more scarce. That's why this matters. So over the long period of time, it'll push up the price of XRP to an unknowable degree. Just don't expect it to literally happen overnight. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, meanwhile, Purpose, which was the first to launch a spot Bitcoin ETF in 2021, is on track to become the first to debut an XRP-focused spot exchange-traded fund in North America. It received the final prospectus receipt yesterday and will immediately start offering the ETF tomorrow, which again is Wednesday, so today. Other big news here, and this is great if you're Ripple, I'll tell you that, which means it's great if you're an XRP holder, frankly. From CNBC, Senate passes Genius Stablecoin bill, giving crypto industry first major legislative win. The Senate on Tuesday passed the Genius Act, a landmark bill that for the first time establishes federal guardrails for U.S. dollar-pegged stablecoins and creates a regulated pathway for private companies to issue digital dollars with the blessing of the federal government. Now, folks, I do have a question, and maybe you could answer it for me. I was told by Kim Jong-Gensler, the former supreme leader and dictator at the SEC, I was told by him that everything was already really clear and that we didn't need additional rules and regulations because everything was so clear. Why does this exist then, right? We shouldn't need this, right? This probably isn't doing anything. Gary Gensler said that everything was very clear, so this must not actually do anything, right? It's so laughable. It's amazing how anyone could look at the garbage arguments made by Gary Gensler or anyone in the previous administration and think that they were actually operating in good faith. They were taking an A hammer, irrationally taking a hammer to an entire asset class and industry. Ah, it's just a joke. Anyway, the bill passed with a 68-30 vote. It's a milestone day for the crypto industry, which put around $250 million into the 2024 cycle to elect what's now considered to be the most pro-crypto Congress in U.S. history, and for President Donald Trump's sprawling digital asset empire. The Genius Act will protect consumers, enable responsible innovation, and safeguard the dominance of the U.S. dollar, said Kirsten Gillibrand, Democrat, New York, one of the sponsors of the bill in a statement. The bill still faces hurdles in the Republican-held House, but passage in the Senate signals a turning point, not just for the technology, but for the political clout behind it. The Genius Act, short for the Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act, just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it, sets guardrails for the industry, including full reserve backing, monthly audits, and anti-money laundering compliance. Look, that's fantastic. People just need rules of the road to make sure that they are compliant, and then you go forward. You just needed some level of clarity. That's why firms like Ripple have been pushing for clarity the longest damn time, years and years and years. And so here's what Brad Garlinghouse had to say upon this news breaking. He says, for years, crypto companies have been calling on Congress to pass crypto legislation and set rules of the road. This is the first major financial bill since Dodd-Frank. The first crypto bill to pass in the Senate, which now moves to the House, a truly historic moment. So folks, all it took was, from the inception of this asset class, 16 years for Congress to do just something, to get something through, for anything having to do with, like, so here we go. I'm just glad it's happening. It's just, like, the degree to which this is going to result in way more money flowing into this asset class, because it's hard, there's no way to know exactly what that's going to be, but it's going to be big. Because the United States is the largest capital market on the entire damn planet. So now that there's the green light here, look at what's been happening this year. And for XRP specifically, there's been no shortage of adoption there, and tons of publicly traded companies, literally purchasing XRP as a treasury reserve asset. Like, that wouldn't be happening if the election went a different way. I couldn't be happier about it. There's just, honestly, there's never been a better time to be in crypto. There's never been a better time to be an XRP holder. You'll love to see it. So again, still hurdles. Got to see it get through the House. President's got to sign it, but of course, Trump will sign it. So let's see what happens, but very, very optimistic. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.